Tonight, confirmation hearing confrontations. President Trump's nominee for Secretary of Health and Human Services grilled on Capitol Hill.
It's time to make sure that we blow the whistle on actually what your views are.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. firing back over claims he opposes vaccines.
I support the measles vaccine. I support the polio vaccine.
Does he have the votes to be confirmed? About face from the White House rescinding that controversial memo freezing federal spending, and President Trump's new move to prepare Guantanamo Bay to hold thousands of detained migrants. Former Senator Bob Menendez sentenced to 11 years in prison after being convicted of taking bribes. The gold bars, cash, and luxury car that led to his fate. The military jet spinning out of control, landing in a fiery crash. The pilot ejecting and parachuting to safety. Breaking news in the Middle East, Hamas naming the new group of hostages sent for release tomorrow. President Trump's special envoy meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. AI accusations. OpenAI, one of the top leaders in artificial intelligence, cries foul over the new China-based AI program, DeepSeek. And the good news tonight, Gotti Schwartz on an important mission to save the steelhead.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. Vaccines, conspiracy theories, and abortion rights made for some heated exchanges with Senate Democrats today as RFK Jr. faced his first Senate confirmation hearing for Health and Human Services Secretary, a job that would put him in charge of more than a dozen agencies focused on the health of Americans. Armed for the inevitable questions about his past statements opposing vaccines, Kennedy told the panel right from the top that he was not anti-vaccine. Nonetheless, Democrats drilled the controversial Trump nominee over his previous claim that no vaccine is safe and effective. Kennedy vowing, if confirmed, he would not dissuade Americans from receiving certain vaccinations. But some of the sharper clashes came over his changing positions on abortion. Ryan Nobles was there for today's hearing and has our report.
Tonight, President Trump's controversial choice to, quote, make America healthy again, facing a heated confirmation hearing.
Frankly, you frighten people.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr., nominated as Health and Human Services Secretary, saying his mission will be to reduce chronic diseases, which he calls a crisis.
Americans' overall health is in grievous condition. I'm not here because I want a position or a job. I have a very good life. I want to do this because we're going to fix it.
But immediately grilled by Democrats over his views on vaccines.
All of my kids are vaccinated. I am not anti-vaccine.
Including his debunked claims tying them to autism.
Senator, I support the measles vaccine. I support the polio vaccine. I will do nothing as HHS secretary that makes it difficult or discourages people from taking either of those
Anybody
vaccines.
who believes that ought to look at the measles book you wrote. That's not true.
Senator Bernie Sanders asking about baby clothes sold on his former organization's website.
One of them is titled Unfaxed, Unafraid.
Senator, I have no power over that organization. I'm not part of it. I resigned from the board.
That was just a few months ago. Are you supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Kennedy saying there are too many chemicals in food, and it's making Americans sick. Today, the former Democrat turned independent, defended by Republicans.
I have no doubt that you will be confirmed and you are going to do such a solid job for the people of this country.
Are you a conspiracy theorist?
That's applied to me mainly to keep me from asking difficult questions of powerful interests.
But at one point quizzed by Republican Bill Cassidy, seen as someone who might vote no on Kennedy.
Does Medicare pay more, Medicare pay less, Medicaid pay more, Medicaid pay less? How do we do that?
I'm not exactly sure because I'm not in there.
Democrats later pressing Kennedy over his previous support for abortion rights.
When was it that you decided to sell out the values you've had your whole life in order to be given power by President Trump?
Senator, I agree with President Trump that every abortion is a tragedy.
Right, but that isn't what you said back in New Hampshire in 2023.
Kennedy arguing the attacks are really about President Trump.
All these Democrats are opposed to me for partisan issues. They used to be my friends. Now they're against me because anything that President Trump does, any decision he makes, has to be lampooned, derided.
So, Ryan, a lot of fire there today, but you have new reporting on where things stand after that hearing.
Yes, Lester, Republicans left that hearing today confident that RFK Jr. had calmed any concerns that Republicans may have about his nomination. Remember, he can only afford to lose 3 GOP votes and still win confirmation. Tomorrow, more critical hearings on tap, including for Trump's controversial nominees in Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard. Lester? All
right, Ryan Nobles, thank you. After a day of confusion and criticism, the White House reversed course, rescinding that memo freezing some federal assistance. And while the president announced dramatic new plans for Guantanamo Bay. Garrett Hake now with late details.
Tonight, after rolling out hundreds of executive orders and actions in his first week, President Trump with a rare walkback. The Office of Management and Budget saying it has rescinded its controversial memo appearing to freeze federal funding for programs across the government. That Monday memo had paused, quote, grant, loan, or federal financial assistance programs that might run counter to the president's executive orders.
Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid have not been affected by any action we're taking in any way, shape, or form. We are merely looking at parts of the big bureaucracy where there has been tremendous waste and fraud and abuse.
The White House says the underlying orders freezing funding for DEI, climate, and other targeted programs are still in place, but all of it temporarily blocked by a federal judge.
Their explanations have created no clarity or certainty. There are a lot of programs they are saying won't be affected, when that is not what organizations across the country are experiencing.
And tonight, another sweeping order amid President Trump's escalating crackdown on illegal immigration nationwide. He announced the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security will begin prepping the Navy's Guantanamo Bay facility to hold detained migrants.
We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people.
The massive Navy base in Cuba still holds 15 terror detainees and has been used to temporarily house migrants before. What kind of civilian oversight would there be?
ICE has the highest detention standards in the industry. You can't find another state, federal, local, or city that has higher detention standards than ICE.
All while the president signed his first bill into law, the bipartisan Laken-Riley Act, which requires the detention of undocumented migrants accused of theft and violent crimes. Riley, a 22-year-old nursing student, was murdered by an undocumented Venezuelan migrant who was previously released after he was arrested for shoplifting.
There's no amount of change that will ever bring back our precious Laken. Our hope moving forward is that her life saves lives.
And there's new fallout tonight from the president's buyout offer, emailed to nearly every federal employee last night, which the White House says could save tens of billions.
We think a very substantial number of people will not show up to work, and therefore our government will get smaller and more efficient.
But Democrats urging federal workers not to accept.
He doesn't have any authority to do this. Do not be fooled by this guy.
Army vet George Buchanan has worked for the VA for nearly 11 years.
What was your reaction when you first saw this email last night?
A little shocked. I thought it was combative, condescending, insulting, especially as a veteran.
And Garrett, if we can circle back to that announcement to send detained migrants to Gitmo, it took some at the Pentagon by surprise, we understand.
Yes, Lester, 5 defense officials tell us many people at the Pentagon were caught completely off guard. And the military has no current orders or guidance from the White House beyond this brief order from the president. Tonight, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says this will require money from Congress, meaning it could take months to fully ramp up. Lester?
Okay, Garrett Hake, thanks. In New York, a federal judge sentenced former Senator Bob Menendez to more than a decade in prison for his conviction on bribery, extortion, and other charges. Jonathan Dienst has late details for us.
Tonight, a stiff sentence for a man who was once one of the most powerful members of the Senate. A federal judge handing down an 11-year sentence to Bob Menendez, a Democrat from New Jersey, for numerous crimes, including bribery, extortion, and acting as a foreign agent.
President Trump is right. This process is political and it's corrupted to the core.
Judge Sidney Stein slamming Menendez, saying he lost his way and failed the voters. Menendez was convicted of taking cash, gold bars, and a new Mercedes in exchange for actions that in part benefited foreign governments. An FBI search of his home turned up hundreds of thousands of dollars, some stuffed in bags, clothing, even shoes. Prosecutors also say he used his position as chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to help New Jersey businessmen. 2 of them sentenced today, 1 to 7 years in federal prison and the other 8. Menendez asked for a lesser sentence, citing his years of public service. He resigned from the Senate in August after his conviction. The 71-year-old emotional in court, recounting his life story, the child of Cuban refugees who became a mayor, a congressman, and finally a U.S. senator.
I am innocent, and I look forward to filing appeals on a whole host of issues.
His wife scheduled to go on trial in March for her alleged role in the scheme. She has pleaded not guilty. Menendez has said he did not know his wife was taking cash and gold bars from longtime friends.
And John, another story on your radar tonight. There's news about the corruption case involving New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
That's right, Lester. A lawyer for Adams has reached out to the Justice Department with a plea for the charges to be dropped against him. That, according to 2 officials briefed on the matter. So far, we're told federal prosecutors have no plans to drop the case. Lester?
Jonathan Deanston, New York tonight. Thanks. Let's turn to that harrowing incident in Alaska. Video capturing an F-35 fighter jet plunging and crashing in a fiery explosion, the pilot safely ejecting. National correspondent Morgan Chesky has more.
This stunning video, now crucial evidence, capturing an F-35 fighter jet in free fall before slamming to earth in a fiery crash.
It is on the runway, the crash.
The pilot at Eielson Air Force Base witnessing the fireball from a parachute after ejecting seconds earlier. The Air Force says the jet was about to land during a scheduled training mission.
The pilot was executing standard procedures, experienced an in-flight malfunction.
The roughly $80 million aircraft is considered unparalleled for its stealth capabilities and capacity to conduct long-range laser-guided bombing missions. But recent crashes have drawn scrutiny. Last May, an F-35 crashed just after takeoff in New Mexico. In 2022,
the jet spinning out of control, losing its nose wheel.
This F-35 pilot in Texas forced to eject on the ground during a vertical landing attempt. The next year, a government watchdog report found ongoing maintenance challenges left the F-35 jets mission capable only 55% of the time. But former fighter pilot Heather Penny has full confidence in the aircraft.
I have absolutely no safety concerns for the F-35 program across any of its variants. Since its first flight in 2006 to today, which is nearly 20 years, only 10 F-35s have been lost to crashes, and some of those have been due to pilot error.
And tonight, investigators are looking into what exactly caused Tuesday's malfunction. As of right now, no other F-35s have been grounded. Lester.
All right, Morgan, thanks. In the Middle East, more Israeli hostages are set to be released by Hamas as a senior American official visited Gaza for the first time in years. Keir Simmons is in Tel Aviv tonight. Keir, what more do we know?
Well, Lester, among the 3 hostages set to be released tomorrow, the last female civilian, Abel Yehud, will be released. Gaza's fragile ceasefire almost collapsed last weekend when she was not freed. 3 Americans are also still held in Gaza, among them 64-year-old Keith Segal, whose wife was freed more than a year ago. The man who helped negotiate this ceasefire, Steve Witkoff, visited devastated Gaza today. He's the first American official to visit Gaza in decades. Tonight, he saw Prime Minister Netanyahu. Next week, Netanyahu will see President Trump. He'll be the first foreign leader to see the president this year. Lester?
Keir Simmons, thank you. We are also following a frightening scene out of India. Police say at least 30 people died in a stampede at the world's largest religious gathering. It happened at a festival in northern India. Police say another 60 people were injured and taken to hospitals. We'll take a break, and in 60 seconds, the new twist involving Chinese AI app DeepSeek. Did it rip off technology from its American competitor? Okay, we're back now with a new wrinkle to DeepSeek, the Chinese AI app. The chatbot's American competitors are now alleging that the Chinese may have copied their technology. Brian Chung has more.
They look similar. AI chatbots that can help you chef up a recipe or write a cute poem. On the left, OpenAI's ChatGPT. On the right, Chinese app DeepSeek, sparking concerns that the U.S. may be lagging behind China in the AI race. AI leaders here in the U.S. now allege that China may have cheated, building a competitor by tapping data from a larger model like OpenAI's in a process called distilling.
There's substantial evidence that what DeepSeek did here is they distilled the knowledge out of OpenAI's model.
An OpenAI spokesperson saying, "We are aware of and reviewing indications that DeepSeek may have inappropriately distilled our models," adding they'll work with government officials to take aggressive, proactive countermeasures. Experts saying it's not clear if DeepSeek is really a copycat.
There is almost like a knee-jerk reaction when it comes to anything that China develops to think of it as potentially stolen. And that's something that we do need to take extremely seriously, especially in AI.
All while OpenAI faces a lawsuit from the New York Times over unauthorized use of its content for training. OpenAI saying the case is without merit because training is fair use. The president's pick for Commerce Secretary telling the Senate he wants to further tighten China's access to U.S. tech.
NVIDIA's chips, which they bought tons of and they found their ways around it, drive their DeepSeek model. It's got to end.
NVIDIA saying it is ready to work with the administration. DeepSeek did not respond to NBC News' request for comment. The app remains the #1 free app in the U.S. Apple App Store. In second place, its American competitor, ChatGPT.
Brian joining me now. What's the level of concern that there could be some sort of national security risk with this?
Yeah, Lester. Well, DeepSeek's terms of use are governed by China, and it tracks a host of data, including your keystrokes, and stores them on Chinese servers. But interestingly, tonight, Microsoft says that it's allowing developers to download a version of DeepSeek that they say underwent extensive security reviews, which would make it trustworthy. Lester?
Right. Brian, thanks very much. Still ahead tonight, new concerns about children's school performance, why some are losing ground, and not just because of remote learning. That's next. We're back with concerning news about kids across the country. The results from the nation's report card show children nationwide are losing ground in reading. Ann Thompson explains.
Tamala Ensrud calls her son Christian
COVID kid because he grew up during the pandemic.
He started kindergarten on Zoom. Now in the 4th grade, she says reading is still a challenge, even with tutors, after-school help, and coaching by mom.
I am noticing an improvement, but it's still a work in progress.
Now a new study says that post-pandemic rebound remains elusive. What's billed as the nation's report card finds average scores in reading declining in both 4th and 8th grades compared to 2022. In math, there was no significant change in scores at 8th grade. The bright spot, improvement in 4th grade scores.
This is a 5-alarm fire.
A disappointing report from the National Assessment of Educational Progress, says education researcher Dan Goldhaber.
What does this report tell us about America's classrooms post-pandemic?
It tells us that students are still struggling post-pandemic. We are not back to normal, even though, many parents and the public may think that we're back to normal when it comes to student achievement.
It's not just the pandemic. Math scores started declining in 2013 for both grades. Reading scores recently following a similar path. Goldhaber says no one is quite sure why.
Could be screens, could be hangover from the Great Recession, could be relaxation of accountability, could be grade inflation.
Sobering statistics for parents like Tamala, with big dreams for Christian.
I would like for him to be college ready one day.
A lot of parents have that dream. Goldhaber worries that because of the connection between success on tests like these and opportunities for college and beyond, those dreams may be harder to fulfill. Lester?
Okay, Ann, thank you. When we come back, the mission to save an endangered species from the dangerous wildfire debris. The good news is next. Finally, the rescue mission in the water after the wildfires in Southern California. Gotti Schwartz with the good news tonight about an endangered species.
Through the ashes of the Palisades fire into Topanga Creek. An army of volunteers wading through murky water armed with nets and fishing poles that look a little more Ghostbusters than your everyday angler. But with those beeps come an electrical charge. It's the quickest way to mass evacuate the elusive little rainbow trout hiding under rocks. It's a mission where time is running out.
All of this fills up with debris and ash. What would happen to that population?
There's a very, very high chance that that entire population would be wiped out.
Look at that one. These aren't just any rainbow trout. This is one of the few places in Southern California where what start as rainbow trout can morph into steelhead trout and swim out into the sea.
How do you describe the magic of the rainbow trout, the steelhead trout?
How to describe that magic? Just to say that nature has miracles that sometimes we get a chance to get a glimpse of and learn a little bit about.
On this day, 271 endangered Southern California steelhead caught and taken to the protection of a nearby hatchery just in time, where they will wait out the rainy season that threatens to overwhelm their fragile habitat. For the fish that once numbered in the tens of thousands here, biologists estimate there are now only hundreds. And even though Mother Nature has given them the resilience needed to thrive in both river streams and the sea, when disaster strikes, there are teams like these, always willing to lend a human hand. Gotti Schwartz, NBC News, Topanga Creek, California.
And that is Nightly News for this Wednesday. Thank you for watching. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.